Because I grew up with no Christian friends. I was very ashamed of my faith.
Because I've been struggling to figure out personally.
It feels like I am kind of starting my career from the beginning. And once I got that success, that was when the mental health issues. Fake a phone call with my dad, pretending that he was yelling at me to go to church.
What's up, stewards? We're so stoked to have our first ever Good Service live event in collaboration with Tableau Kitchen and Bar at South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, California on March 27th.
There's going to be live Q&A, panels, special guests, and a lot of other fun activities. We can't wait to have fun with you guys there and meet all of you guys.
Event details will be in the show notes. We're so stoked to see you guys there. Welcome to Good Service. We are your hosts, Ben Chung
and Kevin Zha.
Each week, we'll be breaking bread and having real, raw, and vulnerable talks about life, faith, and everything in between, and always over a fire meal.
Thanks for joining our table today. Let's eat.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of Good Service. We are your host, Ben.
Kevin.
And we're very excited for today's guest. Today we have lifestyle, fashion, travel, digital creator.
Whoa.
She has over 500,000 subs on TikTok.
Gee.
We have Naomi Leanage in the pod today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for coming through, Naomi. So we always like to get into the food right away. So we're doing a repeat meal here. So you are on a specific kind of diet right now. So for that, we catered to that. And so we revisited Sage today. Sage is a 100% vegan restaurant. This is from their Echo Park location. They also have another one in Pasadena. But we had this when Lindsay White Choi was on, and I heard that you're on a diet plan that she created for you. So we're like, hey, why don't we just go to the same place that we went for Lindsay? So today we have this is their baked mac and cheese. Again, this is vegan, so dairy-free, soy, gluten-free.
Which is wild.
But I mean, y'all tell me how it tastes. And then we have their world-famous buffalo cauliflower wings, as well as their jackfruit stuffed avocados. Ooh. So before we get into our bite, we have a first bite reflection question. So what is something that you do when you don't feel like doing the thing that you know you should be doing? So what is, I was inspired by this because I mean, it's like, we're like in February now, January hype of New Year's resolutions. You know, the hype is gone, right? Everyone's all hyped to do a New Year's thing. Yeah. But, you know, I think from February on is like, all right, what are you really doing to sustain whatever it is, the thing that you said you were going to do? Mm-hmm. But we also know that most often we don't feel like doing those things, right? Like the reason why we make resolutions is because we want to make a change in an area of our life that we're like, hey, I'm not really happy with this area of my life, so I want to do something to fix that or improve that. And so it's a difficult thing to do. And, but, you know, as like the months pass, it gets harder to do that based off of just hype energy. So based off of that, what is something that you do when you don't feel like doing the thing that you know you should be doing? So that's the question. Prepare your first bite. I will not be partaking today. I am doing a fast, but yes, that is by choice. So y'all will enjoy this meal.
He is missing out. Let's try this crazy mac and cheese.
Yes,
Let's air dab.
Air dab.
Let's see what this tastes like.
Ooh, so I get to do the observation.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Really? Yeah? Yeah?
It's like so creamy.
Is it just straight up mac and cheese?
You know, it's not exactly mac and cheese, but I'll
has
tell
like
you
that
what.
pull. It has a cheese pull too.
Yeah, I don't know what this non-dairy fake cheese is, but that's pretty good.
Yeah. Honestly does the trick to...
I love it. Okay, now I know the mac and cheese is bang. I never had the mac and cheese, so I was curious.
It's like thick and creamy. Like it actually tastes like mac and cheese.
And even has like the breading, the baked breading on the top.
This is wild. I would totally eat this again.
Yeah.
Shout out Sage,
Wow.
man. So I was a vegetarian for 3 years in 2017 to 2020. So Sage was like my spot. Once I discovered this place, I'm like, dude, this is even my non-vegetarian vegan friends who I would invite to go. They're like, yo, this is like good food. I'm like, yeah. And it's all
Delish.
plant-based.
Wow.
I mean, cauliflower bangs it out
Yes.
every single time.
The buffalo collie is the winner.
I'm like,
for sure.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So good,
yes.
dude.
All right. So, what is something that you do when you don't feel like doing the thing that you know you should be doing? Whoever wants it first.
I feel like I'm definitely like a baby steps kind of girl. So even like the other day, one of my New Year's resolutions is to walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes every single day. Was not feeling it. But then I'm like, okay, baby steps. What can I do? I can put on my leggings. What's the next step? I could put on my top. And then eventually I found myself on that treadmill. And even when it comes to like filming content, there's so many days where I don't feel like doing it. But I'm like, what can I start to do? I'll put on my foundation. Then what's the next step? You know, I see it as like little tiny baby steps instead of this big, overwhelming and overarching thing that I need to do. And then, yeah, that's what works for me.
Baby steps. That's
Baby
pretty
steps.
good. I like
That is
that.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I wish I was that person.
Hey, bro.
I'm still all in.
You
all
are
out.
taking baby steps. I see baby steps for you too.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I really do.
I mean, you're about to do a half marathon, bro.
Whoa.
Yes, I am. And I'm
See?
baby stepping my way there.
That's a huge baby step.
Yeah.
That's a big baby step.
You know,
Just a 20-mile baby step, you know?
Right.
yeah, this is a very timely question, so I actually appreciate it. There's I feel like I found a new hack in walking this life with God. And even in this question, I feel like he found a way to help me, which is it's been raining, right? It's been raining. It's a rainy, weird season in California for like 4 days or 5 days or something like that. It finally stopped raining, and I knew that I had to go for a walk in the morning. Like I knew I have to do it. I haven't been able to do it for a few days. I should just take advantage of the good weather or go outside. And I'm just like dreading this walk, right? But then I just had to reframe it where, okay, I'm always like stuck in thinking about like my past, meaning like even, and when we say past, like, you know, we usually mean like childhood or whatever, but I get stuck like the past, like yesterday. You know what I mean? Like my emotions of yesterday linger still sometimes. And that laziness, that comfort and all that, I'm still like lingering in that of a rainy day that I was like, I really don't want to go and do this thing. But I had to reframe my mind and go, well, do I love and care for the Lord even in this, even in my health and fitness? If it is his will for me to stick around this earth longer and do more work for him, I need to go outside. I need to be, if I want to be that husband and father to my kids longer, I need to go do some fitness. And so that really got my headspace out of it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to time myself. I'm not going to do any of that because I'm not feeling it. I'm just going to hang out with God and just go for a walk with him and see how long I could be out there. And I won't even look at the clock. And I had like a good walk, I walked for like 3 miles or whatever. And I got home and I was like, that was kind of cool, did my little worship walk thing and haven't done that in like a while. And I was like, this was good. And it kind of got me out of the funk. And I'm like, all right, gym tomorrow, like we'll see. But, at least for today, that got me out of the thing I didn't want to do.
Wow. It's beautiful because it took you out of like, I think most people have goals for like selfish desires and selfish gains, but you like reshaped it and you're like, no, it's for God, it's for my family. So that's a really cool way to.
That is good. I mean, I think finding a motivator is key, right? I mean, your motivator at the top of a year could be like, all right, like new year, new me, and, reset button. And then that could be the initial motivator. And then most often that motivator fades away pretty quick. And then it's like, okay, is there something else that can motivate me to do the same thing though, right? It's not like, okay, if it's like, I want to like look good. All right. If it's not that, it's like, well, I actually just want to live longer. It's like, well, that might be a better, like more sustainable reason. So no, I think that's a really good thing. Yeah, I think for me, I guess kind of similar. Yeah, baby steps and different finding different motivations is good. I think also for me, I can get discouraged when my track record gets tainted.
Ooh,
You know what I'm
that's a
saying?
good
When
one,
it's
yeah.
like I've been doing it this many days in a row, and then I fall off a day or something, and then it's like, oh man, and then there's like that little whisper of a voice that says like, ah man, just try again next year, you know, or like
Next year, bro.
or just like, yeah, you know, it's not really. I mean, you can't really do this, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, no, like I can do this, and. So the harder thing for me is to not listen to that discouraging voice of like you fell off and like what's the point, and I also will say so like it's just to it's like you fell, get back up and then get back on the thing and keep going. And I think the other thing for me is I think especially when it comes to like when you're talking about like content creation and stuff like that, because a lot of it involves like more than just getting up and doing something. It involves like mental, like I have to think about this and I have to make sure it's planned well. And there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? And as creators, we don't want to just like slap something together and post it, you know, or because yeah, I mean, I've done it too, but I mean, that's never like our proudest work.
Yeah.
And so like for me, and let's say for like dance, right? Like if I told myself I need a dance or I need to go like create a choreograph, a lot of times I'll procrastinate, or a lot of times I'll find an excuse as to why I won't actually get into the studio and start moving. And it, like for me, it's like I have to have all the pieces together. I have to have the song. I have to have like the right energy physically. I have to have like the right time of day where I feel inspired. And it's like if one of those things is off, it's like maybe tomorrow, you know. But then and I have had those days, and I have those days still. But what I've been trying to do even as of this year, because one of the things that I've been really trying to do is dance more this year too, because last year I didn't really dance much. And I want to get that more just like as like a regular rhythm back into my life, not necessarily having to do it for social content, but just for my own growth. Like just yesterday, I went to go take a class. And then the day before I went out to San Diego to like dance with my friend. And I actually want to like get re-inspired in movement so that I can start creating for myself again. So I say all that to say is like I may have this sort of general like I want to dance more type of thing, and some days it's not necessarily getting up and going to the studio or like getting and actually choreographing. Maybe it's just like looking for music and then like just at least setting aside some time to look through music to see what I vibe with, and then I'll like at least okay, I think I might like these 3 songs, and then I'll just kind of like float that around. So at least for me, even though I didn't get up and choreograph a routine, I at least started something that's going to help me eventually get to that choreography process. So it's it's kind of baby step-ish, right? It's just, at least you're doing something that's going to help you get to the thing that you know you want to eventually do, versus not doing anything because you're like, oh, the weather's not good, oh, I'm tired today, oh, I don't have a song, and like, you know, and then you just don't do anything. It's at least do something that'll kind of help you get to the process, you know, at least get the process started. So yeah, and I think that's even like, I mean, even spiritually, you know, like at the top of this year, man, I for sure had this like, you know, I felt like God was giving me these very clear words and very clear like vision for the year. And then not to say that it's gone, but it's definitely been challenging. And there have definitely been things that I'm like, God, I thought you said this. Why did this happen? You know what I mean? That doesn't look like the thing that you said you were going to give me, you know? And like, it's just like those tiny little, I guess it's just kind of the same things, right? Like these little setbacks of like, oh, I was so motivated to do this. Like, oh, I lost it. So like, does that mean the thing that I should be doing is now gone? It's like, no, it's still there. You have to shift your frame of thinking. So yeah, I think that's kind of the vibe that I was feeling just even as like, the rain cleared up, sun's out. It's like, hey man, even the weather There's rain and there's sun, and it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
There's cloudy days, there's hot days, there's cold days.
There's going back to like the little hack that God was giving me is talking about like spiritual things that were for the spirit. You want to work on something, but you're just not feeling it, like reading the Bible in 365 days or whatever, right? The little thing that I've been being taught is really just, if I'm not well, even a little bit, it's really about like going back to that motivation. I want to really just fall back in love with God, like just today, just like right now. Because like for me, love is such a big motivator for me. Maybe it's not for everybody, but for me, it like changes everything. It's like an inside out thing. Every time like I just get on my knees and I'm just back like deeply in love with God and just take that really in-depth time to try to like connect. And when that connection happens, all of a sudden these things that I felt were like, oh, so hard, it becomes like way lighter. Yeah. So I definitely a little hack.
Love it.
Well, Naomi, are you kind of new to LA? Are you fairly new out here?
Yeah, I moved here 3 months ago.
Woo!
So
Let's
you
go.
came from, where'd you move from?
Toronto, Canada.
Okay,
Hey.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's where you know Lindsay from Canada.
Yeah, we met
Yeah.
at church over there and bonded over wanting to leave. So
I
here we are.
wanted to leave. Okay, got it.
Well,
Okay.
shout out to the 3% of the Canadian listeners.
Yes, we do have a small Canadian listening audience, and we appreciate y'all. Okay, so what was the motivator to move out here?
Honestly, a big thing was community. Community back home is a desert. It is very dry. And like it's like night and day. I already feel like a different person just 3 months later because of
Really?
the people
Wow.
I'm surrounded by.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
yeah,
Amen.
I would say that's my number one reason. It's also just like a place I've felt called to since I was 17. I'm 31 now. So, and then also I guess work. I think there is more opportunity, though I'm kind of scared. I'm going from like being a big fish in a small pond to like a little tiny shrimp in a giant ocean. And I haven't really gotten back into like the influencer world or industry yet. And I keep, again, giving myself excuses. I'm like, oh, well, when my videos are performing this well, or when I feel this confident, you know, just like you said. But I think this was a good reminder.
Was
to take those
that
baby
something
steps.
that you were, so you've been kind of in the influencer content creation space for a minute?
Yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years full time in Canada.
Okay.
And again, within that time, like a big fish in a small pond. So I like got to do the coolest things, like work with the coolest brands.
Meaning there's not a lot of people who are doing what you were doing out there.
Yeah, or like at least not many with like my following,
I see.
quote unquote.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a very small industry. Like everyone knows everyone in Toronto, and yeah, but it was a really great experience.
How did you fall into that?
So I studied journalism in school and had my dream of working in the magazine industry in New York City. Like I wanted to do the Devil Wears Prada, but with a nicer boss, hopefully.
Nice.
But then my full-time job.
I love that movie,
when I
by the way.
Yeah, a classic.
It's a good movie.
It is. It's a great
I've seen it way too many times.
And then yeah, my full-time job when I graduated was a copywriter for Urban Planet, which is like kind of the Canadian version of Forever 21. And I had to make $5 tank tops sound cool online. But then that made me sick of writing, and then I discovered YouTube around that time. It was like 2014, 2015. And so instead of doing like blog posts, I started creating video content, realized I actually enjoyed this more. And then yeah, that became my new dream, like to be a YouTuber. And I pursued it for 6 years until TikTok came along and made my dreams finally come true.
You mentioned something to me when we were talking the other day, and we're like, hey, would you like to be on the podcast? You said something that like resonated, which was, man, you know, I would love to, because I've been trying to find more ways to kind of just be more open about my faith.
Yes.
And I was just like, ooh. And I'm curious about like, because this journey of entertainment, we all know it's crazy. And so as we're doing this, how have you felt, at least in this season or in the past, like how does that all tie in for you right now with faith and your journey right now?
Yeah. Again, I think that's one of the main differences community has made. It's made me more bold and unashamed of my faith because I grew up with no Christian friends. So my faith was my own and then my family. And because of that, I was very ashamed of my faith. Like I remember I would travel to Miami with my friends and fake a phone call with my dad, pretending that he was yelling at me to go to church because I wanted to go to church, but I couldn't admit that I wanted to go to church to my friends.
Sure, Dad, fine. I'll go to church.
Okay, yeah. And I was like, sorry guys, I gotta go to church. My dad just called and yelled at me.
Yeah.
My
Oh
own
my
friends.
gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why like talking about my faith even online was never really something I felt totally comfortable with.
Curious, I think I get it, but like what for you, not to say that you were ashamed, but what about your faith did you feel uncomfortable letting people know about it?
Yeah. No, honestly, I think it was a bit of shame for sure. And I don't know why or where that came from. But again, it was just like I grew up in a place where it wasn't cool to believe in God, or it wasn't like I had a friend once call me like a Bible thumper when I said I was going to like a church conference, you know? But then...
And then you thumped them. No,
You mean this?
No, I wish I just went and cried because that's how insecure I was.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's so sad.
Yeah, there's actually this viral trend on TikTok right now where this girl's like, what's an instance that made you like believe in God, right? And then one girl, I was watching her testimony and she just shared it and it was obviously kind of a crazy story. But then she's like, that's why I'm not afraid of like, saying how I believe in God and he's real, because when people ask me like, oh, what? God's real? I don't believe in that. And then she's like, well, my response is, and how's that working out for you? And she's like, and usually their life is a mess and they are in chaos. So, it's like, God is the one who brings me peace, joy, happiness. And I need to like, just, share that, not be afraid
Your
of.
family was Christian too, so you grew up in a Christian home?
Yeah. So Catholic Christian, very devout parents. Like my dad would take us to conferences, like especially like charismatic conferences and stuff, which is not very common in the Catholic world, but that's what like, introduced me to things where I was able to like step into the non-denominational world and not be like, why are people's hands up and why are they speaking in tongues?
ethnic background?
Sri Lankan. Sri Lanka. Yeah. So it's only 2% are like Christian or Catholic, I think. So my mom was Buddhist and then she converted when she married my dad. And now she has a faith of her own. Like she believes and she didn't convert just because of marriage. So that's really cool.
Wow.
And are they still in Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved out on your own here in LA, community being kind of one of the main things that you were looking for. And then you mentioned small fish in a big pond here. Is that kind of
I'm like small shrimp in an ocean.
Small shrimp in an ocean. Okay. I think I get what you're saying with that, but how are you dealing with that? Because I get it. It's LA, it's Hollywood, entertainment capital of the world. Like everyone out here is an actor, music producer, blah, blah, blah. Like that's kind of the assumption that people make about LA. And now that you're here, do you feel like that's true for you? And if so, like how are you sort of navigating that?
Yeah. I think it feels like I am kind of starting my career from the beginning, if that makes sense. And what I think I feel God's calling me to do is just like trust him. And like even in Canada, all of my income was like handed to me on a silver platter. So like it was all inbound opportunities. I never had to pitch myself or like beg brands to work with me. And God's like, I was the one who did that back then, like back there. I'll do that again here. Whoa. But I think when the time is right, like I still don't feel settled. I'm still like really like my full-time job is to just go to church events or furnish my place and stuff like that. So as much as I like want to work right now and I feel the anxiety creeping in.
Your job is to go to church events and furnish your place?
Yeah.
Are you hiring? Because
like
I would
that.
love, I'd love to work for you.
It is like the biggest blessing of life, 100%. Well, I lived at home with my parents for the last 2 years, which is why I was able to save a bunch of money.
Okay.
And afford to not work right now, again, which is a blessing.
Yeah.
But of course, there's that anxiety where it's like, you haven't had income in 3 months, right? And like that little devil on your shoulder.
This time that you're taking, man, it sounds actually really amazing because there's not many moments in life where you get this time to just be still, and I think I want to encourage you. I definitely want to encourage you because I know there's going to be, I could just tell by your energy and your personality already, like that you're going to be that person's like, am I doing enough? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Can I do more? Like, I could kind of see that already.
Yeah.
But I really want to just give you encouragement that in a season like this, oh man, God calls us to be still because he's God, right? And I think this is a really awesome time to not only build this beautiful personal relationship with God and encounter him and be with him, but this community that you get to invest into with your time, energy, and love. I think it's going to just be really good groundwork for whatever's to come in probably sooner than you want it to.
Yeah, no.
So that's super cool.
Thank you.
And speaking of that, and really going back to the relationship, where did it kind of start for you where you took your relationship with God, like you just like, I'm going to take this seriously. This is everything to me. When was that like moment? There must have been something that happened. So I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. Again, growing up in like a faithful household, I was like blessed enough to always have that faith, and I never really strayed away or like, did that, which was great. But again, it was very like personal or like surface level in a way, or just like I knew God existed. I would pray to him. And then when I was like 23, it was worship music that brought me in. I know Lindsay has a similar story, but because again, I grew up listening to like Michael W. Smith. My dad would play his Jesus music all the time in the car. I was like, oh, enough of that. But then I was on YouTube, came across like
shout out Michael W. Smith, man.
Like classic 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like my dad loved those Wow worship albums. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I totally see the CD cover.
Yeah. Dude, that's so funny. Yeah.
But yeah, I was on YouTube, and it was I Surrender, like at a Hillsong conference that like popped up, and I was like, oh, let me just like listen to this. Started listening to it, felt like something shift and move in my spirit, and then shifted to like With Everything, and then those two songs. Like I remember I would like go out, come home, and like crave just like listening to those songs, and I'd just watch like the videos, and then that kind of prompted me to like seek out the community that I've been praying for years. God's like, okay, now you got to actually do something. These people aren't going to show up at your door.
Wow.
And then that's when I found like a young adult group, and their purpose was like to bring people from churches all over the GTA for like fellowship and stuff. And then
what is the GTA?
Oh, Greater Toronto Area.
Got it.
Yes.
I only know that as a video game. Yeah.
Just to be clear, I mean promoting Grand Theft Auto
I was
here.
like, GTA? What? I'm confused.
I love that game.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
To bring all the NPCs together.
Thank you.
Yeah. But and then that year I kind of just like dove all in. Like I started going to like 3 to 4 different things a week. Yeah. And would travel like as far as an hour just to go. So that kind of is what like set my heart on fire for God. And then
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that like people connect to God through such different things, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of music. Like I'm a dancer, so like I connect with music, but and just in all transparency, I haven't been able to connect with Christian music in a like up until very recently, because finally it's getting good. I'm sorry, I know that's a hot take, but like I feel like the quality of music is finally something, even sonically, I'm like, wow, this actually sounds really good. But I mean, and I'm not knocking Christian, like I'm not knocking the Wow albums and the Michael W. Smiths, because I like them too, but it never connected with me on the level of like music, listening to worship music, really kind of opened my eyes to God in a certain type of way. But it did for you, it did for Lindsay. And I bring that up to point out that, God created us all very unique, and the things that we connect with are very unique. And so with what someone might connect with may not connect with somebody else, but then something that connects with them is like that, you know what I mean? There's so many variations and varieties of ways of like, God is like, I'm in everything. I'm in music, I'm in art, I'm in movies, I'm in nature, I'm in storytelling, so like, it's just really cool to hear how certain people connect with specific things that, that God, ultimately he's the creator of all those things. And I'm curious for you, okay, so the faith journey through music, and then, your family and kind of coming up in that sort of home. How did you find for yourself, like, 'cause you were working kind of in, I would call it the corporate America-ish, right? You were like working for magazines and things like that. And then, You went to school for a specific thing. What made you feel like you wanted to take a leap towards being your own sort of creator through YouTube, TikTok? And at that time, did you know that there was a career that you could create from that? Or were you just kind of creating for fun and then things sort of organically presented themselves to you? So how did you journey into that like content creator space?
Yeah, I definitely like attribute it to God and like putting that desire in my heart, and also like the belief in myself, because when like I guess the dream of being a full-time YouTuber became a thing, that was when I think most people were opening up to seeing like how much these like teen girls are making off of their videos. And so it was a very real possibility, but no one really understood it. So like my parents were just like, wait, what? So what I did is I accepted.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I accepted like a part-time position at my university. I was working 24 hours a week, making literally like $21,000 a year. And when I first accepted it, I was like, oh, I'll just be in it for a year before my YouTube channel takes off, and then I become rich and famous. But no, it took 6 years, right? So obviously during those 6 years of making $21,000, my parents were like, why don't you get a full-time job? Like, and full-time positions were offered to me. I worked at a university, so I could have been making like 60, 70K like a normal person, but I just knew. I was like, in the depths of my soul, I'm not meant for an office job. I'm meant to like work for myself, be creative, put myself out there. Wow. And so it was like me believing myself for a very long time and just knowing that this is what God had for me. And then even like with money, like I never had anxiety during that time. I was like living paycheck to paycheck, but I was still traveling. Like I had no savings, but that never bothered me, because I'm like, when the money comes, it's gonna come and it's gonna flow. And I'm here like on the other side, and it's true. Like I had like a goals list of how much I wanted to make like a month from content creation, and God tripled that, which is insane. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So that's why I'm like persistence and consistency are like truly the key to success, I feel like, in any career.
That's really good.
What's up, stewards? We just want to take a moment to thank all the amazing supporters of Good Service. Thank you guys so much. We have exciting news today. We officially have a Patreon. If you join the Patreon today as a subscriber, you get exclusive content every single week.
From Q&As, solo reflection rounds, extended episodes, vlogs, and much, much more. You're going to find all of that exclusively on our Patreon. You can log on to patreon.com/goodservicepodcast. Thank y'all so much. God bless y'all. Back to the episode.
Hey.
Curious. So I'm sure there are people, like even in our listening audience, that there's a lot of entrepreneurial people that kind of are drawn to this just because, we kind of come from that world. And a lot of the guests that come on here do the like kind of multi-hyphenates, right? Like I do this, and this. So content creation is a very like broad term. Like technically anything is content. This is content. But for yourself, did you know what your niche was and who you were speaking to, how specifically you were going to speak to them? Or did you just start doing stuff and then your audience found you and you discovered it? Like, yeah, so which way did it work? Did you know it first and then create from that? Or did you just start doing and then you're like, hey, everyone seems to be liking this type of stuff, so let me start focusing more on, these types of things?
Yeah, I definitely think went the path of just doing it at first. Like I remember when I was chasing YouTube, and everything was all about DIYs and those oversaturated, girly things. And I'd be making a frame and I'd be like, I hate this. I could just buy this. Why am I making this? But I was doing it because that was what was popular and taking off on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then when I transitioned to TikTok, I spent a month in January. It was my New Year's resolution, post every single day. And that was just a month of experimentation. So I was doing the trends, I was doing the transitions, I was doing the cheesy lip syncs. I did not do the dances because I cannot dance, sorry. And then at the end, I did a voiceover vlog, and not many people were doing that really at that time. And that's what took off. It got 6 million views in 24 hours.
Wow.
And I actually realized, okay, I love storytelling this way. And then that's kind of what helped transition my content. And then again, I grew my audience with mainly comedy content. So I would do scripted, a lot of stuff making fun of the pandemic and Corona and all that. Remember when we called it Corona?
We
COVID.
Did call it Corona.
Yeah.
Shout out
we
to
just
that.
shortened it.
Yeah.
Shout out to that. I don't want to shout nothing out from that era.
Yeah,
No.
we want to keep that in the past.
We
want to close that chapter.
Yeah. Closed for good.
But yeah, and again, like figuring out like what your niche is and like what I'm supposed to put out is like I think a monthly kind of crisis that I deal with. I'm like, who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah.
So
I'm still stuck. I mean, like,
I don't think anyone ever figures
who
it
shouts
out.
out Corona, bro?
Shout out COVID.
That's crazy, bro. I was like, wait, what did we just do? Well, that's a no. But
We rebuke that.
no, I shed that off in Jesus' name. But I love this because there's so many folks that want to be a content creator, especially in this new generation of kids, and they don't realize that everything good takes time. They just don't know that. They just think like, oh, I just did like 20 videos. Why am I not like famous? It's like, bro. Like you just picked up your phone. Like this is gonna, because the fact that you said it took 6 years to find your way, like that is incredible, because it wasn't about and I like the way you framed it, and I'm sure it got deeper in meaning as you started to like know God every year, I'm sure. But you framed it where God had this for me, so I'm just gonna do this. I love that. Because like what happens is usually, and I am like calling myself out, is like I'll do things and go, bless me, God, right? Like I'm not even asking him, I'm just doing things.
Yeah.
And I think just the whole framework of that is even more beautiful, that in these 6 years in your journey, that this is where you are today. And in this new season 2, which is even more exciting. Because if he made you wait that long to do what he already did today, imagine what this new like rewiring is, or this new foundation that he's setting up. It's just really exciting. I love it.
A quote that I heard from my pastor in Toronto that always kept me going is, sometimes God takes a really long time to move all of a sudden.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And
That's
so
a good one.
even with my career, that's what happened. It took 6 years to get to that point. But then once TikTok like took off, or my videos started taking off, like it happened all of a sudden, you know?
I'm feeling that.
I would say, I mean, that's just, you got to put up the reps. You know, there's no shortcut to greatness. Like if you got to train when no one's watching. I mean, it's, you know, like along with that, it's like what you do in the dark, you know, repeatedly will get exposed in the light. But you know what I mean? It's like what no one's watching you do, you know, when you get that right opportunity, it's like, cool, that's all you needed was that opportunity. But without all the work that you had put in, it's not going to show for anything. I mean, even clips that go viral, virality is almost kind of by chance, but like, can you do that repeated? And if you know how to do that, that means you have a skill that you've sort of like sharpened and exercised. So, you know, as you are here now, you're taking your time to kind of get acquainted to, you know, just like gaining your community, you know, setting up your life out here, and you're kind of like waiting for that right opportunity to kind of get back into it, I guess. Do you have a different mentality in how you want to, or is it kind of same formula, just kind of new city, or like what is that? Yeah, I feel like you've probably been, you know, kind of like ruminating on like, how do I want to kind of get back into it, you know, especially with this like sort of new life and lifestyle that you have out here. What are your thoughts, and like where's your heart at now with how you want to get back into it when you do?
Yeah. So funny enough, like right before I moved, I got so burnt out that I even like experienced depression for the first time and stuff like that. So it's crazy. When I was making no money and like not doing my dream job, I was so at peace and I never had any mental health issues. And then once I got that success, that was when the mental health issues came. So like the money came, but so did, you know, depression and anxiety. Yeah.
More money, more problems. Right? Lady said it best.
But yeah, so honestly, like when I came, I was ready to like even quit content creation. I was like, God, I'm ready to try something different. Like, should I become a voice actress? Like, but then I went to a Bethel conference with Lindsay, and through that and through like prophetic words, God's like, nope, this is still what I want you to do. Like, you have a voice, you need to use it. It needs to be heard. And so I've been doing also the artist way right now. And I think my goal is to just like co-create with God, because I think as humans, we all just tend to strive and try to do things on our own. But God's just like you said, be still, surrender, and allow me to to move. And so there's a really great video that I watched. Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen, he talked about his transition from Hollywood to creating the Chosen series. And he's like, I gave up like, this amazing like career that in the world is like, that is the best. Why would you leave that to create this like Jesus series? And he just felt, and he was also like having that anxiety of like, what if no one sees it? What if we don't get money and funding? Like, how is this going to work? And God was like, it's your job to provide the bread and the loaves of bread and the fish, and I will like feed as many people as I wish. So that's something that I always try to remember when I create content, and like it helps to take the pressure off of it performing well or getting this many views. And so something I actually recently did is I created a brand new TikTok account. So I'm starting with 0 followers. This one's very niche. So I'm focusing on my dating journey here in LA. I'm intentionally dating for the first time ever at 31 years old.
Okay.
So I posted my first video yesterday. And again, with 0 followers, it got like 6,000 views. And that I know is all God, right? Like there's no reason it should have gotten that much, which is kind of crazy. Like sometimes my own 500K account, it's been struggling with the algorithm, mainly because it's still like attached to Canada and I'm in the US. So it's very confused about who to feed my videos to. But I've been getting like all-time views on that account, which usually would make me cry and make me depressed and make me like second guess my worth. But I'm like, honestly, it's my job to just show up and be obedient to what God has called me to do, which is to use my voice, share my content. And the views are really just like up to him.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, with that, I mean, that's a very tough thing to honestly say. Meaning, if you put something out and it gets 0 likes, you're going to think something. You're going to feel something. You're not going to be like, I don't care, whatever. I'm just going to do it again tomorrow. It's going to affect you. And the fact that it affects you is not bad. It's not wrong. You know what I mean? I think we're all wired to, want that affirmation from people, right? And especially when the whole quote unquote success of digital output is how people engage with it. If enough people engage with it, it is deemed successful. If not enough people engage with it, it's like you're not really, it's not quote unquote successful. So for somebody who, you do this as a career, and also I would imagine there's something that you enjoy about doing it too. You're not doing it just like, oh, this is my job, I have to. I'm sure that you like it, it's honest, and that's why people connect with it, because there's such like honesty behind it. But how do you deal with the times where it's not the hit that you had hoped for, and you might even be tempted to call it a miss? How do you deal with those times?
I think it's all about like reframing it. And what I always do is I try to remember like actors and actresses, and they spend hours, sometimes days, preparing for an audition that 3 people see, right? Maybe, or whatever. And then they usually get rejected and move on. And then it's like that. That's their process. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm spending hours on a video and maybe only 1,000 people see it. I try to also like imagine 1,000's like an entire movie theater, right? Or you think about teachers who spend hours preparing lesson plans for like 30 students. So you're right. I think it's like we have this crazy, like the online world has kind of skewed our perception of like the amount of people who view our content, if that makes sense, right? So that's what I try to do to kind of like bring me back into like reality, because reality is 1,000 people is still a lot, whether that's a flop or not for me, right? And even like people who get like 200 views and they're just starting, like that's still 200 people. That's insane, right?
I'm like listening to you, just like thinking about my own journey in content creation, because like because we've known each other through a Bible study on Monday nights, right? So even the folks in that room, they just know me as like someone that's in business, because that is who I am. I do have different businesses and whatnot, but I'm just like listening to all this and I'm just thinking, man, like, because I've been struggling to figure out personally what to do with my content. And the thing is, I used to create food content, and I have this page, it's like 50,000. And I don't really do anything with it anymore, because I don't want to make food content the way I used to, which is just like, it was kind of like a music video of me eating. That's like the only way to explain it. But like, that's pretty much what it was, and these really short form videos. And that is what it is. And then I figured out what to do with my Instagram, which is basically a way to mix my audiences. That's what I use my Instagram for. So Good Service Podcast for me serves a great purpose, which is look at me for all my brands, and then I'm going to collab post it. And then you're going to come to my home page and you're going to see Good Service Podcast. So they're going to learn, oh, this guy that does all this business is a Christian. Like he loves God. So I figured that out and I feel really good about it. Actually, I'm like, yes, right? But my TikTok is just there and it's different because the algorithm works differently. And I've been really struggling figuring out like, because I know I have a voice. I know it because maybe I'm not supposed to use it for media. Maybe, I thought about that a few times, but here I am on this podcast using my voice in a different way as well. And then also wondering like, am I supposed to use it more? Am I supposed to do more, try to bring more? Because I'm just trying to like do whatever God wants me to do. So like wherever the work is, like pay attention and listen. So while you were explaining all this stuff, I started like just thinking about so many things. Like it was crazy, but it's very inspiring to just hear where the journey is, how it works. And and I hope that some of the listeners that are just looking at their numbers all the time to just like knock it off. Like that's not what this is. It's really about the purpose of what you're doing and, why that purpose is. I mean, for us, purpose is God, but whatever purpose their stage of journey they're on, that's really what it's about. So I think I really do appreciate like just the inside behind the scenes of what you're going through.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
And remembering that like even Jesus would leave like for the one, right? So even if just one person is affected by your content in a positive way, then that's what matters, right?
Yeah. We've kind of touched on this, I think, in a previous conversation, but I mean, it's not about like virality, millions of people as far as like, oh, that was successful because it went viral. If it didn't go viral, it's not successful. I mean, of course, we're talking like very black and white here. Not to say that it's all about big numbers, but there's also something to say about numbers because there are specific numbers in scripture too. There are specific, like 4,000 people got saved, like, like in the early Acts church and things like that. There's like, numbers of, years of how long it took for, God to fulfill a promise to, certain people like Abraham or who have you. So numbers do matter to God because I think God does care about large numbers. He said, I came for all to be saved. That means everyone, not some. I want everybody, And but I think, we, like you said, we are called to just bring the materials. We just are supposed to just show up and do the work. And then the blessing of it, the fruit of it, the multiplication of it, that's all on God. And I think when we can truly posture our hearts to be surrendered to like, Lord, you really are in charge of the fruit. So if you want this to be for the one, then let it be for the one, and let me be okay with that being your decision for how you wanted to multiply that. If this is for the many and for the masses, okay, then do that. And then let me have no different heart posture than if it was for the one. Not like, oh shoot, I'm like popping now. Like I'm kind of feeling myself a little bit, And I think that's where it becomes tough too. And that's where we have to like constantly check our hearts and like, Lord, humble me. Like, I mean, even with this podcast, when we started, we didn't know that it could do anything. We were just like, yeah, it might be a little tiny. Maybe our friends will listen to it. And, we've had a couple of clips that went pretty viral. And then, our audience like overnight like grew and we're like, whoa. And immediately I was kind of like, whoa, what did we do? Like, what did you say? What did I say?
What did you do?
Like, let's repeat that. And then there's this like temptation, like, let's find the formula. Let's crack it so we can keep like repeating that. Yeah. But and then I had to immediately, Holy Spirit check me. He's like, bro, you didn't do anything. I did it. That's right. Relax, bro. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, it was, and it's like it's a humbling, but it's not this like, I didn't get like checked hard, but it was just a very clear yet subtle, like, hey, you didn't do anything. I breathed on that one, just keep staying the course. And as like even just transparently, we've had a few that did really well, and then the other ones are just like, man, these are like not even coming close to those few that went well. Yeah. So we're even just being transparent, even with our own like honest like discouragement sometimes. Like, yo, like should we switch things up? And it's also not bad to like go back to the drawing board and like figure out like, hey, like are there certain practices that we could be doing, like best practices for understanding what the algorithms are doing or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's also just stewarding well the thing that you're trying to be good at. But, you can only do so much, and then like don't get caught up in that like spiral of like the algorithms, we got to figure out how to crack this thing. Because then it just, you go crazy, So I think it's really important that like, yes, it's not about big numbers for everything, but it is about numbers, and it is about like who God or like what God wants to use those numbers for. You know what I mean? I think that's for God to do. And we're just like, hey, we're just here as the hands and feet and the mouthpieces, like whatever you want to do, God, that's all on you, Do
you have like because what I remember hearing is in the early journey of, you and God, you were just seeking out all these like communities and groups. What do you think that is that something that you think for the listener, is that important? Is that important? Do you think like how does community affect you right now? You talked about it here and there, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah. Well, there's that like saying that's like you are the 5 people you surround yourself with, which I believe is 1,000% true. Like even being in LA, being surrounded by so many doers. Like back home, it's a lot of like talkers. Like they have dreams, but no one ever actually puts them into action.
Yeah.
Whereas here, everyone is like chasing after their dreams at full force, and they're unashamed of doing so too, right?
Wow.
Like it's not like the, I guess like city rat race where it's like, no, I'm chasing like a bank job, or I'm chasing this. Like I just thrive off of the creativity of other people here. And so like even like Lindsay and I started like an Instagram reel challenge where we're posting one a day because I also want to grow my Instagram, and just like seeing her post, and I'm like, I don't feel like posting it, but then I see her post and that encourages me to do it. So having accountability partners really makes a difference, right? But yeah, community is 1,000% necessary, especially when you're chasing like a career that not a lot of people understand or get or right? Because it's not the traditional path. So.
Do you have like, what's your creative process like in terms of coming up with ideas for content? Do you journal stuff? I mean, I know you said you love to travel, and then there's a lot of lifestyle stuff. And then this most recent one is like, I want to document my journey of like beginning to date intentionally and things like that. So how do you come up with your creative process?
I have a notes app going on my phone, and I find a lot of my ideas come to me as basic as it is in the shower or like right before bed. So even with this new account that I created, like I was about to go to bed, and I feel like God or like the Holy Spirit just downloaded like literally 30 topics, and I just like wrote them all down. And then the next morning I looked at it, I was like, wow, I like literally have a month's worth of content for this.
Wow.
And so, that's why I'm like just such an advocate for like, we got to co-create with God and not have it on our own. Because I think when I try to like strategize or I try to like brainstorm on my own, that's when I draw a blank or like I struggle. But when I'm literally like, God, you take the way, he's like, okay, I got you, right? And then, and then also like consuming content obviously helps too. Like I find I'm very inspired when I'm scrolling. So I call it market research when I'm just scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours. But
because that's another term for doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Doom
Market scrolling.
research.
If you work in content
I do
creation,
a lot of market research.
No, that's good. I love that idea of co-creating with God. And I think we should unpack that more or even dive deeper into that concept. Because I think when I think co-create, it's with other people, right? It's like, hey, we should collaborate on something. But like, who better to be a collaborator with than God, like the ultimate creator of everything?
Yeah.
He's the one who gives us inspiration, even in our own thoughts, to come up with these ideas. Like this podcast, we co-created this with God because it wasn't like, hey, what's a good idea for a podcast? What will be hot right now? Oh, let's talk about Jesus. I think that would be hot right now. Like, no, hot literally, that was not a thought at all. But it was just like, Lord, what do you want us to do? And we both felt that like God was like, tell stories, but tell stories about what you really care about. And God's obviously interwoven into everything that we do, whether that be our work, our community to like the things that we just are finding ourselves drawn to. Like God is in all of that. So he's like, why don't you talk about that? And you guys love eating food. Why don't you guys do it over some food? And we're like, that sounds like a cool concept. We break bread every episode. And then like we talk about like what good service means and everything. So I think that idea of, inviting God, because I do that. I started doing that within the last few years where, when I would choreograph, I would just choreograph, like put on the music, start dancing. And then, it would just be like, okay, cool, I'm done. But over the last few years, I realized, maybe it's because as I'm getting older, I'm like, wow, I could still dance. Like I know a lot of people who are my age, like who stopped dancing a long time ago. And they're just like, oh, I can't, my body hurts and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh man, I feel like my body's okay right now. So like, I'm just like very much aware of like the ability to do something that not a lot of people can do and still do it. So I'm very thankful. So it just started out with like thanking God. I'm like, God, thank you. Like I have these limbs that work. My knees aren't broken and my back's not giving out. So like, thank you. Like that itself, I'm thankful for. Thank you that I get to dance. And then I'll invite God into the creation process. I'll like, as cheesy as it sounds, I'm like, Lord, like dance with me today. Like give me the moves that you want me to like connect with. Like help me to find the thing in the music that you want me to like connect with and like help me to have fun. Like, God's also, we always think about God as like this serious God who only cares about all things holy and sacred. And fun is not a part of that. It's like, no, man, he created fun. He wanted us to enjoy these things. And so I think, even for myself, every time I choreograph, I always pray. I walk around the studio room and I like, Lord, just join me in this process. And also, in just a little sidebar of that, not every choreography session is like amazing. Some days, like literally the other night, I was in the studio for 2 hours. I made nothing. I tried. I was like trying and the moves weren't connecting. I just was not decisive of anything and I just didn't like what I made. And normally I would get discouraged. I'm like, man, like, why isn't this working? I'm trying. I'm here. I'm putting in the effort. I've been doing this for years. How come it's not working? And I think it's because I postured my heart in the beginning to be like, Lord, this session is yours and I invite you to be with me. So even in my discouragement of like, man, I didn't really crank out anything today, I took that as like God saying, it's okay. I spent time with you though. Like we got to dance around for a little bit. You're playing around with some stuff. Just come back next time. And I don't think I would have been postured that way if I hadn't invited God into that in the beginning. It would have just been all on me. Like you didn't do it because you're not good right now. Like you got to be better, but I was like, no, it's okay. So I think co-creating with God. I love that concept.
One thing I wanted to bring back to is you mentioned that you were a big fish in a small pond, right? Mm-hmm. And I heard that when you said it, and then you were talking about now you're like a regular fish in like a giant pond or the ocean, right? And when you said that, I kind of, it didn't leave my mind, actually, the whole conversation. And the reason why is I wanted to even encourage that. And going back to co-creation, you're rocking with the person that created the ocean. You know what I mean? So seriously, the closer and tighter you get with God, man, whatever you do with him, there's no one that could touch it. Not a single person. And so speaking of the biggest fish, you're literally rocking with the biggest thing ever, right? It's like literally the creator. And I think that's super cool. So wanted to encourage you that that's not how I see it.
Yeah, no, that's so good.
Yeah. Well, Naomi, we call this show Good Service. We love to hit up these amazing food establishments that provide nourishing and delicious meals, that provide good food as well as good service. But everybody, we believe, has the ability to serve in a unique way. What is good service to you? What is good and what is service?
Oh, good question. I think good service, like actually in church this last Sunday, we heard a statistic that psychologists say that people think about themselves 85% of the time and they're only thinking about others 15% of the time. So I think aiming towards good service is hopefully like switching around those statistics where you're thinking
Wow.
about others 85% of the time and yourself 15% of the time. And yeah, it's doing things and realizing what the main goal of life is and what our main purpose is. Because I know I struggled with this thinking, oh, my purpose is to create content and to be an influencer. But really, it's to love God and love people. And I think we sometimes forget that second part, right? Love people. So I think good service is really just loving on people in whatever way they need, whether it's being a listening ear, whether it's actually
good.
like physical labor to help them move or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, to shift that mindset of like, what can they offer me, or what can they do, or what can they do for me, and just serving without expecting anything in return.
Wow.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's good.
Dope. I love that.
Good.
Well, Naomi, thank you so much for coming through and hanging out with us. And just want to acknowledge you for one, just your courage and your boldness to take a leap of faith to come out here. As much as it could be. Is this the first time you've moved away from home, like Canada?
Yeah, like a permanent move. So I did a 4-month trial last year, but yeah, never permanently moved away.
So yeah, I mean, I know how intimidating it could be to move, period, but also move to a place like LA. You know, I know that people like look at LA as like, woo, that's like, it's scary. And, but I think more than just like that move of like chasing your ambitious goals of your dream, it feels like your motive was like, I just need to be around better community. And like, I think that is something that the Lord will honor, you know what I mean? Because you're seeking him above the career move and above the better opportunities. I think it's like, you're like, I just need to be around people who love God more. And like, that's the stuff that is going to ultimately feed my life. You know what I mean? So I think I see that. And yeah, like I've met you through our Bible study and through Lindsay. And yes, you are around a solid group of people. Like even for myself, I'm just like, man, I haven't been around such healthy community maybe ever, you know, and I've lived here my whole life. So it's really cool to, see you here and just, hear about a bit of the journey so far. And it's only been a few months. And, I look forward to like what the end of, this year is going to look like for you, like you're just getting started and things are starting to move. And, I think it's just a very exciting time for you. And thank you for coming on and sharing with us. And we look forward to doing more life with you.
Thank you. No, this was awesome. I feel so encouraged and inspired. So thanks.
Nice.
What is a way that we or our listening audience can serve you during this time?
I guess, yeah, if you want to follow along the journey, my social is at Naomi Leanage, NaomiLeanage. And yeah, I'll be sharing my entire journey on TikTok and Instagram.
Hey.
Sweet. We'll plug all of that in the show notes and captions and all that. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Good Service. We do have a Patreon, which you probably already heard the ad for. So if you haven't already, make sure you go on to our Patreon, subscribe. We have all kinds of exclusive content on there that is only going to be on our Patreon, not anywhere else. We have extended episodes. We got one-on-one convos between us. We have Q&As that we're answering from you guys and a whole lot more. We're going to keep developing and keep bringing on new, fresh content.
We're going to ask Naomi what to do.
We're gonna ask her for all the hacks and pro tips. Thank you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. We out. Good service. Thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and leave us that 5-star rating. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Good Service Pod, and on YouTube at Good Service Podcast.
Thank you. Peace.